also my maiden name's Carter, so I thought that was cool. And I'm focusing on the Inuit goddess Sedna. She is in the Arctic region, central Inuit Baffin Island. So the reason that I chose her myth is because I was looking for a really strong feminine figure, which, side note, is really intimidating to stand in front of a room full of men and talk about something like this.
Right.
But her story basically was she was enticed by a man with a beautiful voice, and she married him, and he promised her this wonderful life, and she traveled across the sea with him only to find that he was a seabird in disguise. So she sang out to her father to come and save her, and he came and he killed the seabird. And when her father was taking her back to her home, the spirit of the seabird caused this huge storm surge, and it was basically rocking their tiny little boat. So her father threw her overboard, and he cut off her fingers to prevent her from clinging to the side of the boat. And the myth goes that her fingers became mammals that then would feed the Inuit people. And then if the Inuit tribes were to mistreat animals or anything like that, it was considered a taboo, and then they wouldn't find any animals to hunt or to fish. So there's this big festival every fall where the shaman would go and visit her spirit and basically request good weather and good hunting and that type of thing. So the issue that I wanted to relate all of this to was treatment of women in the military. So I served 9 years active duty. I recently transitioned into the reserves, and I can only speak for the branch that I served in, which I won't say right now, but you guys have probably seen me wear shirts and hoodies and stuff. But I sat down and I thought about my own experiences as a woman in 2019. And when I was younger, especially when I was 19, probably until I was about 25, people would make comments and that probably weren't appropriate. And I would laugh it off, I'd be like, you're so funny, because I wanted to fit in. And a lot of times I was the only woman in the unit that I was in. So I just wanted to be accepted, and I didn't want to rock the boat. And then I thought, if somebody were to say something like that to me today or in front of me today, I would 100% say, that's not okay, I'm not comfortable with that, and you need to stop. So I think that's kind of been a recurring theme that we've seen in the news, especially.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, in the last couple years, women are standing up for what they believe is right and the way that they should be treated, specifically in the workplace. And even now, my civilian job, I work with mostly men. And just this week, somebody told me, yeah, the men prefer that if the women wear skirts in the office. And it just floored me that that was something that was considered to be common knowledge,
Well,
so.
the dress code dictated by the guys.
Yeah, exactly. So going back to the relation of the myth, when Europeans came to North America, a lot of times these, native tribes were, they felt suppressed. And part of that suppression was the role of the Inuit women. So they didn't have equal gender roles, but they were equally important. So where a woman might be skilled in probably something that you would consider to be a feminine trait today, like they may be good at sewing or weaving or cooking, and then the men would take care of the hunting and the fishing and the building, they were both very much dependent on each other, and one could not survive without the other. And then the Europeans came over and they were like, hey, no, that's not what women do. And then they also brought with them a lot of technology that made some of the skills that women had that were considered to be vital obsolete. Now we have a modern sewing needle, and then eventually, of course, more and more technology came about. And
machines, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I thought that was an interesting correlation, because those women felt repressed and they looked to Sedna as their source of strength in that time. So that's kind of what I wanted to do was, I think there are still a lot of minorities and groups in the country, and, that feel that type of suppression, and you always have to find a source of strength in those situations.
Are you having any trouble? That sounds really good and really interesting, and the relationships are good. Are you having any trouble with finding versions of the myth that you can use?
No, because there really wasn't a bunch of different versions of it, not that I could find anyway. The variations seemed to be really small. They were, the main themes of the story were the same.
Okay, where did you find the main one that you're using?
I have to look at my source because I don't know.
Is it a book or is it just?
It was a PDF.
Online.
So I think it was part of a book.